Hello, welcome again to ClimateChange Nigeria. Here we talk about climate change and every other conversation that has to do with climate change and what people in Nigeria are doing about climate change. Today we're shifting a bit from COP29 series and we want to give people understanding of what climate change is, because we received reactions that people don't really understand what climate change is. And today, I have with me the program's manager of DCR Ambassadors, Mr. Ted Afaga, who will be doing justice to climate change and greenhouse gases. Fred. All right, Mr. Ted, we'd like to know what climate change is.
Okay, climate change simply means a long-term shift or a long-term change in the weather conditions over a long period of time.
Well, you mentioned weather.
Yeah.
People are confused. Personally, sometimes I was confused. What's the difference between weather and climate change?
Okay, why climate change deals with a long-term shift or change in weather conditions? Weather itself is just short-term changes in the atmospheric conditions of a particular place at a particular time. For instance, you can wake up and you know that the morning is maybe hazy or it's windy or it's sunny. Towards noon, the weather might change, and then in the evening you have another weather altogether. Yeah, but for climate change, it doesn't change that often, and it's usually between the range of 35 to 50 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So why is the climate changing?
Well, the climate is changing because there are factors that make the climate to change. One is the natural factor, which is that the climate will change whether you do nothing to it or not. The other is attributed to human factors. Yeah, human activities are actually influencing the climate to change.
What are those human activities?
Well, if you take a cue back to history, you will see that during the Industrial Revolution, man started engaging in activities that led to massive production of goods. Yeah, so that came with the release of some gases to the atmosphere, and I think I would like to talk about the greenhouse gases and the effects.
Okay.
To enable us to know better what climate change is and why the climate is changing. There are key greenhouse gases that it will be good we know about them. We have carbon dioxide, we have water vapor, we have nitrous oxide, and then we have methane. Yeah. So these gases occur naturally in the atmosphere. The aim of those gases is actually to trap down heat to Earth. You know, when the sun rises, it brings heat, it radiates heat to the Earth, and then there are gases that their aim is actually to keep the Earth warm. It's actually to create a balance within the Earth. So, but over time, due to man's activity, these gases have increased over the years, over the centuries. So we are now having a situation where the gases that are meant to keep the Earth warm are in excess. So the Earth is getting warmer and warmer. And that is what is leading to the phenomenon, the concept we call global warming.
Oh, global warming. Yeah, so you mentioned carbon dioxide, methane, water vapor, and nitrous oxide.
Yes.
Someone is confused. I have carbon dioxide in me as a human. I mean, that's what I emit when I breathe out.
Yeah, very well.
And I take oxygen in. And we were taught in school that we humans take in oxygen and plants take in carbon dioxide. So make me understand, is it the air I breathe that is causing climate change?
Okay, well, there is a natural relationship between man and his environment.
Okay.
You see, at the level where we are, at the biosphere, where you have man, you have plants, and then you have animals, there is a natural symbiotic relationship between man and plants. And when I mean man here, I'm including animals also. Yeah, so you see that man breathes in oxygen, right? Yeah. And then breathes out carbon dioxide. So that means if the population of the earth is increasing, that means there are more people giving out carbon dioxide, right? Yeah. But then there is something nature has put in place to take away this carbon so that there's a balance. So plants actually take in carbon dioxide to make their food. It's a process known as photosynthesis. Yeah. So now the relationship is in such a way that there needs to be a balance. If the human population is increasing and then the plant population is decreasing, there is already an imbalance in the ecosystem already.
Yeah.
So you see that urbanization, maybe farming and industrialization and all of that, you see that the plant population is beginning to decrease. That means we're having less oxygen. Yes, because plant gives off oxygen and then we in turn we give them carbon. And then like I mentioned earlier, human activities. We drive cars around. Yes, we operate machineries that emit also. Yeah, they emit these gases, and then we don't have enough things to sequester this carbon into them. So plant serves as carbon sink because they take in carbon. Because if you have excess of these greenhouse gases, that means you are having more heat. They are trapping more heat to the Earth's surface, which in turn will cause global warming. As you know, as the globe is warming, you see that sea levels are rising. You will see that we're having extreme weather conditions within different regions. In some regions, you could have rainfall that will last maybe just 4 or 5 months in a year. It's like that those rainfall patterns are reducing. You're having shortage of rainfall, which is causing drought. There's too much heat, and all of these issues. So you see that in the northern pole, where you have glacier, you have ice, due to how the earth is warming, those ice are melting. And as they are melting, they're increasing sea levels, which is also a problem to coastal communities. Because where people are living close to the coast and the water levels are rising, it means it's a danger to their habitation where they are living. And you also see that the rainfall patterns have also changed, due to global warming also, and we call it climate change as a whole.
Okay, I quite understand.
Yeah.
I mean, your explanation opened up some things I wasn't getting clear before, especially in terms of the relationship between a man or between animal and plant. And which make people, because often I hear people say that cutting down trees cause climate change. So I'm looking at it that, okay, if trees collect in carbon dioxide and human give out carbon dioxide, it means that when there is a tree, where there are humans or where there are animals, they are supposed to be plants. So in cases where we have cities with animals, I mean men now, and there are no plants, it means that it's really causing or contributing to climate change. Are there other factors or sources of carbon dioxide that you mentioned or that you might like us to know? Because you made mention of driving cars, emitting, and it's quite confusing. How does me driving car contribute to climate change?
Yes. Well, the use of these machineries, like I mentioned earlier, vehicles, lorries, trucks, even the aircraft that we fly, they are heavy polluters of our world today. So, and we have a lot of vehicles on Earth. We have a lot of people flying, either commercial airlines or private jets. And if you do a further research, if you read about how these airlines pollute the climate, it's much. Like if an airline makes a trip, it pollutes a lot. It's more than what a community can even give out. If you combine a community, the carbon they will give out is less than what the aircraft will give you out. So the more machineries we have around us, the more we are polluting our atmosphere. So, and that is why one reason why we keep on advocating for smarter ways of doing things. Instead of 10 people going to an occasion with their 10 different vehicles, to add to the pollution, why not just use a bus? These are ways that we can actually minimize polluting the environment. And then you talked about environment where people are living. You can see that already there's that natural relationship between man and plants. Yeah. So where these plants take in our carbon and then give us oxygen to breathe. You see that in many places there are no trees. You go to some estates, you don't find trees around them, and then it's source of worry because what is there to actually take carbon from the atmosphere? So you see that people who are even living in rural communities, they are breathing air that is more oxygenated than people who are living in cities. Because you're living in a house, your neighbor is running generator, he has a car, the person living next to you is also running on generator, You see that there's a whole lot of carbon. There's more carbon in the cities than even in rural areas. Because there you have trees, you have farmlands that are green, that absorb carbon. But in cities, you hardly find that. So there's truly a balance, and that is why the heat waves you're suffering, people who live in urban areas suffer it more. Why? Because there is really nothing to absorb that, to take away that carbon from the environment.
Wow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. This is really, really interesting because our audience, people who watch us, they always complain that they don't understand what climate change is. And of course, it's a global concern. Yeah. Climate change is a global challenge. It's one of the 17 SDGs, right, where the whole world is coming together to say we want to live with climate change, or we want to combat climate change, its effects, disasters that it brings. We want to, but aside all this conversation, there are larger people who does not understand what climate change is, and your explanation has really helped a lot. We hope that in our next episode, actually, we would talk more on carbon dioxide and some other gases you mentioned, like water vapor, methane, nitrous oxide. So I really appreciate your presence in our show.
Yeah, thank you so much. Well, so many people out there think that climate change is just a hoax. They just feel it's a conspiracy, but we can see the effects of climate change around us. You might not be suffering from flooding, however, you're still suffering one way or the other due to climate change effects, especially as the globe is warming up. It's either you're suffering from heat waves, or farmlands are drying up, there's drought, so we can't deny the fact that climate change is around us. If you can look like 10, 20 years ago, the weather wasn't this hot the way we are seeing it today. What do you think happened to it? The climate is changing. So in our next episode, we'll be looking at how to mitigate climate change and how to adapt to climate change. But I'll just advise people, wherever you live, try to have at least a tree there. Trees sequester carbon, and you have a shade where you can take a cool rest under it. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you for watching Climate Connect Nigeria podcast, and thank you very much, Mr. Ted, for that insightful discussion with you. Next week again, we shall be here, and we will bring more educative content for your viewership. My name is Jairus Awu.